On this week's episode, I'm joined by Portuguese comedian Inês Coimbra. We discuss, amongst other things, the differences between people from Porto and people from Lisbon, Portuguese food like francesinha and drunken chicken, trash cans, following around construction workers, and we try to answer the question, are Portuguese people funny? Welcome back, or welcome to another episode of Portugal, The Simple Life, and I'm really happy to be joined here by Inês Coimbra. Inês, hello, and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Dylan. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, finally.
You're very welcome. Yeah, finally, we've only been speaking about this since last year, and now it's finally happening. So don't mess it up. Just don't mess it up.
Definitely. And thank you for having me, for good, because you waited for a while, and most people will just quit. So thank you.
Yeah.
And once again,
you made me wait. How are you? Where are you in the world right now? Tell us where you are and how you are.
I'm really good, really hot also, because I'm in Guarda, which is my mom's hometown. And for those of you who don't know, it's basically the part of hell in Portugal. It's really, really hot in here. I was saying that there are some fires around, so as you can imagine, it's not the best place for you to spend your summer. But I'm just on a quick visit, some mom cuddles for a while.
Awesome. Inês, tell us a little bit about you to start.
Ooh, tough one. So I'm Inês Coimbra, as Dylan said, which is really funny because it's not exactly my surname, and some people call it like an artistic name, which is also not. It's just my adoptive surname from my mom's side. And I was actually born in Coimbra, which is even funnier because I have the same name. And I'm 25. I'm a stand-up comedian, I would say part-time, but I'm also a teacher part-time as well. So yes, this is a quick summary about who I am, but there's a lot more. And I'm very talkative, as you can see by now.
We'll get into a lot of things, so it's all good. And it's good that you're talkative, because that's kind of the point of a podcast, is to talk, so it's okay. Tell us a little bit about your background, your hometown, Inês. And we love to speak to people about their hometowns. So yours, yeah. You're not living in your hometown. You've moved around a bit, but tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've moved. I'm a bit of a gypsy, let's call it that way, on a positive side. I was born in Coimbra, as I previously said, but then I moved to Guarda, which is my mom's hometown, and I stayed here for a while. It's a very quiet place. I often call it not a city, but a village, because it sort of looked like that one. But I stayed here, I completed high school, and then I moved to Porto, which is, for those who speak Portuguese, that's the reason why I still have the accent, the North accent. I do have it, and it's very, very visible and very audible. And then I moved again to Lisbon, which is the place I said I've never moved to. I would never go there, but I did. And I work in Sintra, so I've been all over the place. Yeah.
Okay, and why didn't you want to move to Lisbon?
I've been to Lisbon for almost a year before moving. And it was during the pandemic, so that might be the reason why I was having like a hate/love affair with Lisbon, because the people were this is like a common sense. If you go to New York, there's a lot of stress. People go all over the place. Nobody talks to nobody, and they're always in a rush. And I don't like that. I'm more of a slow-paced person. And one of the things that I missed the most about Porto was the fact that everyone talks to everyone, regardless if they meet for 5 seconds. The whole bon dia does not happen in Lisbon. And even when you're too chatty or too positive, people just look at you differently in Lisbon. It's not a bad thing. It's just people are more, I'm not going to say they're mean or anything. They're just more in their own lives. So that's something that it's very common for people from the north do not like the Lisbon ones because of that, because they feel they're a bit cold. And it's completely different, to be honest with you. And that was the main thing about the people. I mean, the city is a beautiful city, Lisbon. Let me tell you that. And you have a lot of places to visit, and it's so easier for you to go to any place and to have anything, regardless, hospitals or any other facilities that you do not have all over Portugal. That's amazing because it's the capital. But that's it. It's too cold. That's the reason.
Porto's too cold?
Sorry?
Oh, you say Lisbon's too cold?
Yeah, not about weather,
In the
just about
people.
the people. Yeah, people are. I can't exactly explain you because it would be a bit arrogant for me to say that. But for instance, sometimes they feel a bit arrogant, but they're not. It's just the way they do not just give themselves to anyone, you know. And people from the north side usually tend to just imagine that you go to Porto. Have you been there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you go to Porto for the first time, and that happens to a lot of tourists, you might even think it's a tourist trap. For when you meet someone in the streets and they just tell you, "Oh, you need to go that way. I'll go that way with you. Don't worry, I'll go with you." And it's completely true, and they will, and they even invite you to go to have dinner at their places, even though they just met you 5 minutes ago, and that won't happen in Lisbon at all, ever. So that's the people, mainly the people. That's what makes a city what it is, right? Regardless of the places you can visit, of the monuments you have, the temperature, the weather, the culture is made by the people who are the inhabitants of the city. So that's the big difference in what concerns Porto and Lisbon, in my opinion. Okay, let's call it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting. Majority of the people that will be listening now are from overseas, or a lot of the people. And for I think for a lot of people visiting, they might not see those differences in the between the two places. You mentioned that, like you mentioned, you had a northern accent. We wouldn't know. We wouldn't know now that you had a northern accent.
But we do whenever for instance, you do have a different accent than the standard American accent or the standard British accent. But yeah, you definitely don't recognize. I think you don't, but maybe you do. Have you ever thought? I mean, have you ever listened carefully the Portuguese from Lisbon and the Portuguese from Porto?
Not really. I mean, I'll tell you, I hear it more in like if it's somebody speaking like from the Azores, like the Azores, that one of the island accents. I hear it a lot more there. In the north, like I wouldn't, if I'm sitting in a restaurant somewhere and I speak Portuguese and I hear someone speaking Portuguese, I won't be able to say, oh, they're from the north, based on their accent. I wouldn't be able to do that. So yeah, it's different.
Funny, yeah. The Azores is a bit, yeah, it's not a bit, it's a lot different than the regular Portuguese. Even us, like the regular Portuguese, have some trouble understanding the people from Azores. But
Yeah,
that's totally fine. Yeah.
my brother-in-law is from Azores, and I struggle sometimes with his yeah, with his accent. It's tough.
But they're so welcoming. It's amazing. They're
They're nice people.
so
They're
good.
nice people. Have you been there?
They're
You've been
so
there.
nice. No, I haven't, but I have a lot of
Okay.
friends from there, and they're so nice. It's amazing. They're so happy. They're you know that what people say about the Irish people. They're like the happy leprechauns. I think Azores is like sort of like the same for us. Yeah, it is. It is definitely.
It's funny because I also come from a very green place, so maybe it's something to do with having a lot of green around. You know,
Maybe
you
it's
never
in the
know.
flowers probably. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, Inês, with your work as a comedian, do you think having sort of this exposure to all these different parts of the country have helped you with your work as a comedian?
Mm, that's a very interesting question. I've never thought about it, to be honest with you. Um, It might, because traveling helps you, right? And it gives you a different perspective of all the things. And to be honest, right now I mainly perform in Lisbon because it's where I live. But I've been to Porto 3 days ago, and it was so funny because um, I used the same speech I have used in the same text, the same things, but just in the way I performed, and some things that I could so easily turn into a more um, connectable idea. Because as I previously said, there are a lot of things between Lisbon and Porto that are very different. For instance, if you go to Lisbon, and this is a very famous one, you've probably heard of it before. If you go to Lisbon and you're from Porto, and somebody tries to shove you a beer that's Sagres in your hand, people from Portugal are like, oh hell no, I'd rather drink water from the tap. I don't care, but I will not drink that. But and so I had a joke about beer specifically, that in Lisbon usually I use Sagres usually. And then in Porto, I did with Supervoc, and it's completely, I mean, it's completely the same. People laugh, but if I used Saga, I know it would not work ever, and people would boo me for sure. So that's a thing that yeah, definitely helps me, because I know what works here. I know what would work in Lisbon. I don't know what would work in Alentejo for sure, because I've never lived there. But yeah, it's definitely helpful. I've never thought about that, but now that I do, yeah, absolutely.
When you perform in Lisbon, do you get the opportunity to tell them how much you like Porto people more than them? Is it something that you get into?
Um, Let me tell you something. It's really difficult for Portuguese people to listen something like that, regardless if they're from Porto, Guarda, Coimbra, Aveiro, whatever. So I just tend to be on the good side, because I want them to laugh and not kill me. I don't want to be the Chris Rock from Portugal. We're good by now. So I can do that on a very ironic slash sarcastic way, but I don't think it would work, because I would believe people would believe it's true. So maybe not. I'll keep it on the down low. Yeah.
Inez, what do you like about your country? What do you love about Portugal?
Oh, the food. The food is amazing. If you're overseas and you want to come to Portugal to visit, prepare your tummy, because we eat good, right, Dylan? We eat good, and we
Yeah.
eat a lot. That's a fun thing. I've worked in the tourism area, as I think I told you, and one of the things that the tourists, regardless whether you're from, is always the food and the wine. So they're so completely uh, amazed by the amount. That's another thing. Prepare yourself for the amount of food, especially on the north side. We tend to
Yeah.
imagine, and that's something I miss in Lisbon, because like a regular size for one, usually in Porto, is the same as for two or three. So that's a massive thing. Yeah, that's huge. Um, I think the food is one of the most positive aspects of my country, but I don't want to be shallow and keep it that way. So even though the culture, I mean, the
No,
food is
no,
part of the
you're not
culture.
being shallow. Portuguese people take food very seriously. It's not shallow.
Yeah,
Why do we
we
take
do.
food so seriously? Why do we take food so seriously in this country?
I think is about because of our grandmothers. It's a culture thing, and I mean, you've probably been to a place where there's a grandmother at the table, and they always want you to eat as much. You know, on Christmas you do stuffed turkey. Usually in Portugal, you are the stuffed turkey on the table, because your grandmother will push you to eat as much as you cannot eat, but you will do it. And I think it's also besides the joke part, I really think is the idea of being around a table with those you like, those you love, and just sharing the best of your life with them, and sharing a meal is always about sharing something positive, because there's the whole idea of being okay, whether socially, whether economically speaking, whenever you have a full table with food, right? So I think you're just sharing your richness with everyone, and that's why food is so important to everyone. I think that's the reason,
Because I mean,
But
the
let me know
reality
your
is,
opinion.
yeah, my opinion is I agree, and it is about the experience and the people around the table. Imagine the that whole experience can be ruined if the food's bad.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's also possible, but very unlikely if you come to Portugal and if you come to the right places. I mean, there's always, imagine that you have a group of 5 friends. I mean, speaking on a regular way, okay? There's always one of them that is, if they're all Portuguese, there's always one of them that is, in fact, a good chef. Even though, if not professionally speaking, but there's always someone who cooks perfectly well. And let me tell you something, which I was actually telling my mom yesterday, because there's a dish, I don't know if you ever tried it before, which is frango de cerveja, aka chicken
The
with
drunken
beer
chicken.
on it. The
Yeah,
drunken
the
chicken,
drunken
yeah.
chicken.
And it's amazingly easy to do. And I remember back then when I lived in Porto, I had like a massive
We
dinner
have to wait.
party with my friends.
We need to circle back.
Sorry.
We need to circle back. You need to tell
Okay,
people
okay,
what that
sorry.
is, because people don't know what that means. It's because
The drunken
where.
chicken. I mean, there's a
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
of dishes. You do have one. I mean, the one that I make, and usually my mom makes, it's super easy, and it's basically just a stew made out of chicken and onion soup and black beer, usually black beer because it gives it a more of a sour taste. That's it.
Okay.
That's like the
Okay.
easiest thing you can do. You just have to have the 3 ingredients and that's it.
Okay.
But you can make it fast.
Where I'm from originally, a drunken chicken is something else.
Oh, you see? Yeah. So there's
Yeah.
how is it then? Tell me.
It's actually on a barbecue, and you
Oh,
take a can of beer and
mm-hmm.
you stick it up the chicken's.
You chop it
That
up. Okay.
yeah, and then you put it on the grill like
Mm-hmm.
that, and the heat of the barbecue goes up through the can, and the beer kind of overflows inside the chicken, and it's like a grilled chicken but with a beer
Oh,
up its bum. Yeah,
I've
it's
heard about
different.
it, but that's not the
Yeah,
traditional way. At least
we call that a
my
drunken
mom didn't.
chicken. Okay, come back to your one. Talk about your one. Carry on.
No,
I'm listening.
it's so easy to make. It's like a college recipe. It's really really easy to make. And I don't want to be humble saying that, but I really enjoy cooking. So I have a lot of practice, and I actually had I used to have a pastry online shop. So I
Oh,
really enjoy cooking, and I don't often make it a mess. But that time it was a massive dinner party. As I previously said, I had a lot of friends over, and the main course, like the cherry on top, was the chicken. So we drank a lot of wine, and I completely forgot about the chicken. And when I tell you,
oh,
Dylan, it was black because all of the beer was out of the chicken, all of
so it burned.
the sauce was completely burned. And it's really funny because everyone ate it. And I said, no, 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 please don't eat it ever. I'm gonna toss it out. We're gonna order some pizza. And they said, no, you cook this and we're gonna eat it. And it was so horrible. It was absolutely disgusting. And even though it was bad, as you previously said, sometimes it might be bad, yeah, but it was awesome and everyone laughed. And once again, it was a moment to share and to remember. So you see, even though if it goes bad, it goes well. Yeah.
Yeah, good story. What else do you like about your country?
Besides the food, the people, of course. I think we're very uh, heartwarming people. We're very welcoming as well. We're very nice and kind. We do gossip a lot, and I think that's a very funny thing about the Portuguese people. We do gossip a lot, and you know that, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I do enjoy the weather, and I really enjoy the streets. And let me tell you why. Because I've been to a lot of places, and I do believe that Portugal might be the cleanest place I've been to, definitely. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. It's actually interesting because we've never had anybody on the podcast in more than 100 episodes say it's really clean. I love Portugal because it's so clean. So you're the first one who's talking about how clean it is. So we maybe need to explore that a little bit more. But yeah, I agree with you. It
Yeah.
is very clean. It is very clean.
Okay, so let me explain you on my side. So I mean, I've been to a lot of places that whenever you walk the streets, there are a lot of garbage around the floor or just on the floor. And I'm not just like saying um tissues or anything small, like huge, like litter all over the place. And you don't find a garbage bin very close to you. And that's something I often find in Portugal. I mean, I wouldn't say in every street or in every corner, but you do have a lot of bins all over the place and trash bins. And even if you want to recycle, you do have where to put it. And I think we're a bit, I wouldn't say conscious, but maybe we're a bit conscious about trash wise.
Yeah, I think so. I
I
think
don't know.
you should have tried that when you're working in tourism. That could have been a good slogan. Portugal. There's always a
Yeah,
trash
yeah,
can nearby.
yeah, the good slogan. Maybe instead of food, right? Yeah, but people
No,
wouldn't
food is
come
the
either
thing.
way. So
Yeah, no, I do think so. I mean, I do think in general, people are conscious of each other and of their environment, and then yeah, it is cool. There is always a trash can nearby. So, but Portugal, that's something that always struck me from the beginning. Is always a clean place. The beaches, I mean, the beaches are always clean, always.
unfortunately, not always, Dylan. I've been
No.
to a lot of places, especially after the festivals. There are one or two, maybe more festivals that happen in the seaside,
Mhm.
and after those festivals, it's not something cute to see at all. But still, whenever I go to the beach, and now more than ever, I see people having keeping their trash either on a bag or on a small can, something. And that was not something that you could see a while ago. So we're getting it better, maybe. Yeah, so definitely, yes.
Okay, so we got food and trash.
Yeah,
What else? Is there
food
anything
trash.
else? Do you want to go for a third thing that you like about your country? Because we've got food and
I said
trash.
I said the weather, but I think I can find something else that is not the weather because that's probably something that everyone spoke of before. Um, there's something that I only started to pay more attention to when I moved to the big cities, which is the culture. Because, for instance, Guarda is a very quiet place, and you don't often have a lot of events or people coming here to perform or anything. And I'm gonna tell you a huge cliche, but when I moved to Lisbon and I got to experience the whole Fado experience on site, uh, I was completely overwhelmed, and that's something that we treasure. It's really cool that we have Cristiano Ronaldo, but we have Fado, which is pretty cool too. And it is, and it's not just cool. It's not something as shallow as cool, but it's unbelievably beautiful to listen to, especially if you go to a Fado house or if you go to Alfama. Oof, it's an experience. That's it. It's an experience. So I will say food, fado, and trash. Yeah, I mean not trash. Let's take
Lack of
clean
trash.
street. Lack of trash. Yes, perfect.
Yeah. That's not bad. Not bad. What would you warn people about? Like people coming to Portugal, hey, we're coming for the first time. What would you, just little tips to help people get by in Portugal?
Okay. So there's a very, very important one, and I think this one goes especially for the British ones. And I've always wanted to tell you, please use sunscreen because there's a stereotype about you, and it's the whole lobster thing. Whenever we see someone very, very, very red, it's usually from whether England or anything on that side, because people do not believe that our sun can actually burn, and it does, and it's very, very dangerous for your skin. So that's something that I should warn you, for sure. Besides that, as I previously said, the food, and I know our own schedules, because this is something that most people do not know in Portugal, is that foreigners do have a different usually eating schedule than we do. I've had friends from how do you call it, the Netherlands, that would want to eat dinner around 5, and that's a bit difficult, especially some restaurants, some big restaurants, especially not touristic ones, just close after 3 p.m. They're done, and they only open around 8. So be careful on that. Have a great breakfast at home. Always hydrated, because once again, the sun. And yeah, that's mainly it. And please, 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 this is a very important one because I used to work in the tourism field, and do not mistake Portugal for Spain, because this is a very common mistake for people to do, because I know we're very close to each other, but it's not the same country, and some people get really offended whenever you say buenos dias. They really do. So if you say bon dia, even though if you only know that 2 little words, it would mean the world to us, really, for sure.
Why are we different to Spain? How are we different to Spain?
First, we don't sleep siestas, which in my opinion would be amazing, but we don't have that one. Yeah, we work 9 to 5, and if you sleep a siesta at your place, at your workplace, you probably will be dismissed. We are, even though we're very talkative, we're less talkative than Spain, and we're not as much as party animals as they are, because they have this sense of, for instance, whenever they're done with their work around 5, 6, they go out and they have a beer, they have a drink with their friends. We don't. I mean, not on a regular level. Maybe during summer, but it's not a very cultured way of doing it. So I think we're mainly different because of that, and the language. It's not the same. We're Latinos, but it's not the same. So yeah, that's the main thing.
Okay. For people, let's go sort of your 2 cities. Let's put your 2 cities against each other here, Porto and Lisbon. They're these 2 sort of world famous cities. You've already spoken about the people, how different the people are. Is there anything that you want people to know about either city that they don't know already? A little secret or something that they should.
A little secret. I had a lot in Porto. I don't know Lisbon as well as Porto. I have a few. Yes, I do have a few that I can tell you, especially because I work in tourism.
In Porto, they need to know what's a fino. You need to know what's a fino in Portugal. You need to know what is a fino.
But that's the thing that most people can tell you. I was going to say about some some lookout places that people do not know, because very important, of course. Don't go to Ribeira to eat. I mean, you could go there because the landscape is amazing, and even it's a perfect background for Instagram photos, but do not have dinner at Ribeira. It's a very touristic trap place for sure. You'll eat the same and even better within the city or in a very small place, and would not be charged the 50 euros for a pasta. Okay, so keep that in mind. It's very beautiful. If you want to go to the cellar, it's perfect as well. And there's a thing that people miss out whenever they go to Porto, which is not exactly in Porto, but please, please visit the Douro Valley, because that's where the port wine is made. And you can visit amazing vineyards and the original cellars, and that's unbelievable. And that's a landscape you won't really like to miss. Specifically in Porto, be aware the francesinha is not something for your breakfast, because most touristic places have the francesinha on the menu and people just assume it's like a simple sandwich, but it's not. It's it's almost dinner and lunch together. So
It's
be
heavy.
aware
It's
of that.
heavy.
And it's spicy. It's heavy, yeah, and it's spicy. And some secret, yeah, the lookout place. Okay, so whenever you go to the center, not downtown specifically, you have to go further up, close to the Clérigos Tower. You have a tiny, tiny narrow street right on the left side that will take you to Mirador da Vitória, and that's the best place. They will tell you to go to Morro, they will tell you to go up the Clérigos to see a wonderful landscape, but trust me, this one is chef's kiss. So yeah, definitely go there. And about
Why is it the best
Porto,
one?
because it's very, very tiny, and it's not very common for people to go, but it's safe. It's really safe. And whenever I took anyone there, they were always overwhelmed because they would not expect that. That do not comes on books, and it's like a secret place. And I just told everyone, so not so secret anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Inês. You've ruined someone's
I
secret
ruined it
lookup
for
point.
everyone.
How do we find, I mean, for people coming, a follow-up question. You spoke about Ribeira, don't eat there, go find the little places, how do people find those places? Those little
Usually
tashkas that
they
you
can
mentioned.
they can actually follow me on Instagram, and I will be more than happy to supply a list for them, or even book for them. I don't even mind, because if they don't speak Portuguese, that might be easier. I have a few favorites. If you want to eat very good and fresh fish, there's this place which I think it's called Taberna São Pedro. Yes, exactly, Taberna São Pedro, which is very near. It's on the Gaia side, but it's near the water. It's near the docks and the port side, and it's amazing. And it's even amazier. No, it's even better if you go during summer, because you get to be outside and the smell of grilled sardines is all over the place. It's very, very cozy. And you will eat well, and it's not expensive at all, and it's not touristic, so you will eat the Portuguese way for sure. Then you around downtown you have this place called Cervejaria Brasão. They have a few, but my favorite one is near the Coliseum. So and for me that's the best place where you can have the francesinha, because it's just different. That's my opinion, okay? Because right on front of it you have the most famous francesinha, so that's a bit of a tricky one. You might want to taste all of them, then that's totally fine. If you have the guts to do it. And those two are my main favorite. Whenever I go to Porto, I try to go there. Then you have a few smaller ones, but it is quite difficult for you to go on a smaller one, especially if you spot locals over there. It's where you eat well. And there's a tiny secret, which is if you spot besides locals, because sometimes it's difficult to distinguish between locals and tourists. If you spot workers, like got a word for it,
Construction workers.
construction worker. Yes, it's an amazing and cheaper place for you to eat. So you can trust that one because they usually like to eat well. So trust me, that one's
All right. So
a
there's
good
your
advice.
top, there's your hot tip. There's your hot tip, people. Look for the construction workers. So boots,
Yes.
hard hats, dirty clothes, maybe some
Yes.
fluorescent vests, and old men. The old men also, they're too old to eat
Yes.
badly, so they go to the good places.
Exactly. They know what's good.
Yeah. Awesome. Inês, are Portuguese people funny?
They are. They are. Yeah, I think we are actually. That's a difficult. That's I think it's the most difficult question because we're funny and sometimes we're very sarcastic also, and it might be difficult for people to understand our sarcasm. For instance, I'm pretty sure if you have already done this, Dylan, that you went to a coffee shop and you said, I would like, but in Portuguese, eu queria a cafe, and the right, have this happened to you, and the waiter goes, oh, so you would. I mean, in Portuguese it's difficult because it's basically, so you don't want it anymore, right? And people hate it whenever you say that. So we tend to joke a lot, but not in a mean way. We're not trying to be mean or anything. We just want to light up a bit the mood. I think that's the best thing. And I grew up checking things on the television that made me laugh. A lot of comedy. I wouldn't say like comedy specials because we only have that now going on thanks to Netflix and all. But yeah, I think we had a lot of jokes growing up, and I think we're funny. It's a difficult one asking a comedian. It's a difficult one because we always want to be the funniest of them all. But yeah, I think we're funny. We are. We're nice. More than funny, we're nice.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes too nice, actually. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Inês, what's one thing that you'd like people to remember and take away from our conversation? Just one thing.
Construction workers, trash, food, because I think we spoke a lot about food. And besides all, that Portugal is a very, very good place for you to visit. And I mean, you live here and you're not from here. So more than anyone, and probably better than me, they will believe you. It is a great place for you to live. If you want to move to a different country, if you want to meet a different culture, I think Portugal is a great place for you to start. Definitely. Yeah.
Awesome. You mentioned that you're gonna help people find the best places to eat in Porto, but not for this reason. But how can people find you, follow you online, maybe come see a show, and stay in touch?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so to follow me, maybe on Instagram is the best place. So you can actually follow me through Dylan's podcast. Maybe you'll just put my name on it. You'll link me up, right? And if you want to go and see a show, I'm usually at Lisboa Comedy Club, which is in I think it's Avenida do Clolé. Now I'm confused, but I think so. It's near Marquês de Pombal. If you go to Lisbon and you do have a GPS, you just write down Lisboa Comedy Club. I'm usually there. And if I'm not there, I can assure you, you have a lot of great comedians there as well. And it's a great place for pizzas and burgers while you have a great laugh. So yeah, it's a restaurant, but it's also a comedy club. And yeah, that's where you can find me. If you don't want to be a stalker, you can just track me and follow me until you reach my place. But that's a bit weird, so we'll just keep it within Instagram and Lisboa Comedy Club for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to put a link to your Instagram. I'm not going to give out addresses or anything like that. That will get weird.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Inês, a question that we ask all of our guests. Portugal, the simple life. Why?
Because you can go anywhere really quickly. There's not, unless you live and you force yourself to live on a stressful pace. We don't really want you to be stressed whatsoever. And we do have some secret places where you will never feel that you're being lazy, considering Alentejo, because everyone is just simple and just keeps everything simple. Even in what concerns food, everything is simple. And I don't think we're a culture that likes to complicate things. And that's a very funny thing and welcoming thing above all. So yeah, I think that's the main reason. Yeah, and it's a small country, so it's very simple. Don't complicate because we do not want it. So
awesome. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Finally.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. Yes, and you are talkative, not as much as I am, but you are.
Yeah, on a podcast you kind of have to be.
Yes, otherwise it's a mess. I know, been there.
Exactly. Thank you, Inês, and I'm going to let you call it.
Okay, so that's a wrap.
So thank you once again to Inês, and thank you to all of you for listening. Please subscribe, share with your friends, give us a thumbs up, and please leave a comment or a review. We'd love to hear from you. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. And as we say in Portugal, te próxima. Welcome to the simple.